Hello everyone and welcome to SplitSecond. My name is Sequeira and I will be taking you to today's match. Before starting, we at SplitSecond want to thank everyone for your constant support and suggestions on all social media. You can continue to support us by sharing and liking this video, subscribing if you haven't yet, by becoming a patron, or simply by not ad blocking the ads on our videos. Due to the current global situation, we are back to self-quarantining and recording our matches digitally. This week we have me retrying Jeskai Ascendancy Akiri Thrasios, Luigi with Tate_Benson's 1963's Korvold Dockside False Farm, David piloting his Nekusar wheel brew, and Baal with Mateus Nogueira's KCI Teshar. As a small note, this game was recorded before Commander Legends came out. David is starting this match with a free mulligan. He has a bunch of lands but is lacking in fast mana. His hand consists of Exotic Orchard, Polluted Delta, and Command Beacon for lands. He has a lot of wheels, with Wheel of Fortune, Time Spiral, and Dark Deal. cEDH can bump his speed a tiny bit for a turn 4 Nekusar. Baal's hand is quite decent with Prismatic Vista as his only land. However, he can use Enlightened Tutor to fetch himself fast mana should he not draw lands or ramp. Mishra's Bauble is a pretty good cantrip egg that can help him combo, while Salvager of Ruin and Workshop Assistant both assist in graveyard loops through Teshar. Ghoul-Caller's Bell works as anti-tutor for opponents, feeds Baal's graveyard, and can work as a win con. Scroll Rack is card selection. I mulliganed once and kept an okay hand. Flooded Strand, Stomping Grounds, and Sculling Tarn can fetch and fix my mana. Mystic Remora either feeds my hand or taxes my opponents by slowing their plays. This gives me time to find dorks to push with Concordant Crossroads and go all in on Song of Creation to try and hit a tutor for that Jeskai Ascendancy and win from there. Finally, Brandão's hand is full of mana but lacking in payoffs. He has Grove of the Burnwillows, Gemstone Caverns for that pre-game show-off, and Windswept Heath. Simian Spirit Guide and Chrome Mox further ramp him. Praetor's Grasp is very likely to be used to find him a payoff or protection in someone else's decks, and Squandered Resources is just nasty with Korvold. Let's have some fun. Brandão starts off with that pre-game Gemstone Caverns to which he pitches Chrome Mox so he won't 4/4/2 himself. David shrugs after that display, playing a Polluted Delta. Baal does draw into a land, Arid Mesa, which he plays, and then casts a Mishra's Bauble. He goes ahead and cracks the Mesa for a Plains and casts Enlightened Tutor for that sexy mana crypt on top and a turn 2 Teshar in sight. He cracks the Bauble looking at David's top card of his library, a Misty Rainforest. He passes. Baal draws from the Bauble during my upkeep. I play a Flooded Strand, fetching for a Tundra, and dance to the sweet groans from the rest of the table after resolving a Mystic Remora. Luigi plays a Grove of the Burnwillows and moves to end step, not looking to feed my fish. David uses this moment to crack the Polluted Delta for a tapped Watery Grave. David plays Exotic Orchard and passes, skipping the Signet because of the Remora. Baal plays the Plains and also passes, skipping the Crypt. At this point, I have to pay for Remora. No one is doing anything, so I'll just stay in my corner time walking. I play a Sculling Tarn and pass. Luigi plays Windswept Heath and also skips on casting spells. My fish is starting to feel pretty malnourished. David plays a tapped Sunken Ruins and passes once again. Baal plays Prismatic Vista and cracks it. In response, I crack Sculling Tarn for a Rogram Triumph just because, you know, Mind Sensor is annoying. Baal gets a Plains and casts Workshop Assistant, not feeding Remora once again before passing. I pay for the Remora because it's doing fine work so far. I play an untapped Stomping Ground and play Findorn Elves to help me feed the fish. Luigi plays a Bayou. He exiles Simian Spirit Guide for red mana and we know where this is going. He cracks his fetch for a Taiga, sad not to be able to bang on that trigger. He casts Korvold and, when it enters the battlefield, Luigi sacrifices the Grove to draw a card and put a +1/+1 counter on his commander. He is down to 3 lands, which isn't amazing if he can't get fast mana or a Dockside fast enough. David plays Command Beacon and then casts an Izzet Signet, giving me my very first Remora trigger. It seems like the table is giving up on not feeding the fish. He passes. Baal casts Benevolent Bodyguard, making my Swords to Plowshares shake in my hand. He then plays Mana Crypt and I get my second Remora trigger. Baal finally casts Teshar. He attacks Luigi with the Workshop Assistant just in case Luigi is feeling generous about blocking and allowing Baal to recycle that bauble sitting in his graveyard. The damage passes, and so does the mono-white player. On my upkeep, I let the Remora die. I play an untapped Secret Foundry and cast Selvala Explorer Return. Luis reacts with a "oh boy." I then play a Concordant Crossroads before passing. One more turn and I might be winning this match. Luis plays a Praetor's Grasp targeting me. I wonder if he dared to remove a win con from my deck, but he has other plans. Now at this point, no one knows what he went for, but I believe he might have gotten protection in the shape of deflecting SWAT. Luis, however, gets a Dockside Extortionist without any of us knowing to try and win on his next turn as well. On his end step, David plays Impulse. David passes without playing anything. We figure he might be holding some sweet interaction. Baal starts his turn playing Scroll Rack, which he activates for 2. Baal then finds and casts Arcbound Ravager, the sack outlet he was missing to try and win this turn. He sacks Mana Crypt to the Ravager and then sacks Workshop Assistant to return the Mana Crypt to his hand. Now, at this point, we are seeing an infinite mana loop in the making. If the Crypt is returned to Baal's hand, he will be able to recast it and return the Assistant from his graveyard, float colorless mana from the Crypt, rinse and repeat. So I decide it's time to try and intervene. I activate Selvala. I reveal a Green Sun Zenith, Luis reveals the Dockside Extortionist, David reveals an Ancient Tomb, and Baal reveals another 0 CMC artifact, Memnite. I add 3 green mana, gain 3 life, and everybody draws a card. I cast Swords to Plowshares on Teshar. Baal sacrifices Benevolent Bodyguard, targeting Teshar to give it protection from white. At this point, I expect Luis to cast the Deflecting SWAT and save us, but he didn't take it from my library. Then Baal tells us he can shortcut to draw his entire deck until he finds Ballista to kill us. David, however, asks him to go step by step, so we know Notion Thief could be on a menu, to which Baal says he can make 2 infinite large artifacts and attack David in order to try this line of play at the second main phase. Still, we go slow. Baal keeps looping, putting infinite counters on Arcbound Ravager and getting infinite colorless mana. He sacks it to put all the counters on Workshop Assistant and plays Sky Scanner. It enters, and in response to the draw trigger, David flashes in said Notion Thief to try and find an answer. He draws instead of Baal, with only 1 blue mana available. I joke around that he can only stop Baal if he draws a Chain of Vapor, since looping the Sky Scanner and giving David his entire library might be too risky for Baal to attempt. David did draw Chain of Vapor. He uses it on my Concordant Crossroads to prevent Baal from one-shotting him with hasted infinite powered creatures. I pause on the information we were given of how Baal intends to win, and believe there is no point setting myself at least 2 mana behind, a land and recasting the Crossroads, so I do not copy the chain. Just when we think we're saved, Baal shows us he had everything as he casts Ghoul-Caller's Spell. This allows him to do the same loop he did with the infinite mana, except now he will mill himself until he finds a Walking Ballista. Once that happens, he sacrifices the Workshop Assistant, gets the Ballista in his hand, and pings us all to death. Good game. Since this was a fast match and only one deck really did anything, we decided to go for a round 2. Baal won the roll this time around. He has 2 lands in Ancient Den and Plains. Scrap Trawler and Salvage Scout can help him with Teshar loops. Phyrexian Altar is a sack outlet, and Cathodian can help him achieve infinite mana. Ghoul-Caller's Bell, as we saw last game, can be used as disruption or as an enabler. I mulliganed once and kept a 1-lander in Wooded Foothills. Preordain is there to get me the second land, so I can either Sylvan Library, Izzet Charm, or Incubation Druid to get my game going. Freeze from the Real helps me get infinite mana with some of my dorks, and Fierce Guardianship is always great interaction/protection with one of my commanders out. Luis's hand has huge potential in Korvold. He has 2 lands in Gemstone Mire and Misty Rainforest, Llanowar and Findor Elves for ramp, and the always awesome Dockside Extortionist, which is bonkers with his commander. Final Fortune can give Luis the extra turn he needs to win, and Veil of Summer protects him from shenanigans. Finally, David has 2 lands, Sunken Ruin and Mana Confluence. Chrome Mox and Talisman of Indulgence can further push his first turns into an early Time Twister, or later on a Time Spiral. Pact of Negation is a good way for him to protect himself or keep us in line. Second match, start. Baal starts off with a Plains into Ghoul-Caller's Bell. We complain about the shuffling on Cockatrice, but otherwise keep the match going. I play Wooded Foothills, which gets immediately cracked for a tropical island. I cast Preordain and Gulp, scrying both to the bottom and drawing 1. It's Luis's turn. Brandão plays a Misty Rainforest and cracks it for a Taiga. He then plays Llanowar Elves and passes to David. David plays Mana Confluence. He then plays Chrome Mox, exiling Time Spiral since it costs a bajillion mana. He plays Talisman of Indulgence. Not a bad turn 1 at all for him. On his end step, Baal mills everybody with Ghoul Caller's Bell. I don't mill a land and exile Enjoy. Baal plays a Remote Farm and then casts a Salvage Scout. That further explains why he's digging for that sweet value. I don't find a land but still get to play a Noble Hierarch. Next turn I'll be back on track. Or would have been if Luis didn't play a Renin 6 on his turn and use it to immediately take down my Noble Hierarch. I did ask him if he thought he was able to handle the table without a player in the game, and he looked at his hand confidently. Luis then plays a Gemstone Mine and follows that with Vindor Elves. David plays an island not looking to wield just yet. On his end step, Baal mills everybody with Ghoul Caller's Bell once more, not finding anything special just yet. Baal plays Ancient Den, or as Luis called it, the White Seed of the Synod, and then an Urza's Bauble. He attacks Renin 6 with the Salvage Scout. On his second main, Baal cracks Urza's Bauble to see a random card from David's hand. He sees a Time Twister, which makes him look at his hand in an entirely new way. He passes. On my upkeep, Baal draws from the Bauble. I don't get any actual play or land, instead discarding to hand size and passing. Joy. Luis starts his turn by upticking Renin 6 to get back Misty Rainforest. He plays it. He floats green mana with Llanowar Elves and then sacrifices it to cast Culling the Weak, adding 4 black mana. He then plays Dockside Extortionist, creating 4 treasures. We're starting to see where this is going. Brandão casts Korvold. When Korvold enters, he sacks Dockside Extortionist, drawing a card and putting a +1/+1 counter on Korvold. Then he cracks the fetch, triggering his commander once again. He gets a Bayou and then sacks the 3 remaining treasures, triggering Korvold 3 times. Not sick at all. Luis plays Underworld Breach. In response, Baal casts Oblation on Korvold. Korvold goes to the command zone and Brandão draws 2 cards. Underworld Breach resolves. Brandão plays Dockside Extortionist from his graveyard, creating 4 treasures. He cracks 2 to cast Final Fortune. Then, he exiles Elvish Spirit Guide for green mana to cast Arcane Signet. The storm keeps going as Brandão casts Elves of Deep Shadow. On his end step, he sacrifices Underworld Breach. On his extra turn, Luis starts with a good old Ad Nauseam. He is mostly looking for a way to loop Dockside and a payoff. He finds Creature Tutors and Mayhem Devil, which pretty much means we're about to lose. Luis plays Gaia's Cradle. He organizes his turn by starting off with his mana production effects. He exiles Simian Spirit Guide and casts Dark Ritual and Cabal Ritual. He then plays Death, bringing Eternal Witness to the battlefield and using it to fetch for Underworld Breach to his hand. He plays it. He sacks Dockside to cast Infernal Plunge and then replays Dockside from his graveyard for 4 treasures. Luis now casts Gamble and discards Cindervines to it. He plays the Lion's Eye Diamond he fetched and activates it, discarding his hand. From there, Brandão casts Entomb to get a Timur Sabertooth to his graveyard. He replays LED and plays Mayhem Devil, and then goes ahead and replays LED once again, pinging David with the Mayhem Devil. Luis is now able to cast Timur Sabertooth from his graveyard. Luis adds 6 with Cradle and activates Timur Sabertooth to return Dockside to his hand. In response, David casts a Braid on Baal's Ancient Den and destroys it, trying to deny 1 treasure to Brandão and stop the looping. Brandão replays Dockside and then plays Entomb for a techie play of Witchclaw Talisman. That's right, he will now play the Talisman, giving it to David, and is once again able to loop Dockside with a Sabertooth, getting himself even on treasures to send Dockside to his hand and recast it. He pings us all to death with the Devil on turn 3. GG. Thank you for joining us for today's matches, everyone. Sacrifice loops were clearly the theme this week, with Teshar and Korvold claiming a round each. We'd like to start the credits by thanking our current patrons and especially Izanagi, Stefan, TJ Rapp, Mike Purr, Ajimo, Iglegal, Hida Chill, Drunken Housecat, LL Coolrat, and Uncrustable are stack breakers. If you want to go through other Commander adventures, click one of the videos on the right. If you want to talk with us about our games or other EDH related matters, join us on Discord. Come with us again next week for a new set of commanders and more decisive plays. See you all then.